I cannot understand why the developers of Gotham Knights decided to use ray tracing on the consoles. On the previous video, I showed you the game running acceptably well without ray tracing, but then I turn it on. It breaks the game. I am getting popping and stuttering all the time. The performance is dropping in at least 20 frames because of the CPU. So why would they use ray tracing on the consoles? I have a high-end gaming PC. I never use ray tracing. Never. I don't have a single game where I see ray tracing is worth using. It's not worth it because the performance drop is too big. So when the CPU is the limitation, it doesn't matter if you drop the resolution of the game because you cannot get a higher frame rate. So on the consoles, this game is heavily CPU bound. So ray tracing is increasing the CPU requirements. Why are you using ray tracing? Turn that off. If they turn off ray tracing on the consoles and they do an update, they turn it off and they allow you to unlock that 30 frames cap, and you have a VRR display, I am sure you can get 50 frames, you can get 40 to 50 frames driving through the city, and on the interior places you can easily get 60 easily. I cannot understand why they decided to do that. This is just unplayable, man. On the PC, and it's not only the ray tracing, I am getting texture popping everywhere. Everything is popping. Cars are disappearing, reflections are disappearing. Look at this. The game's stuttering all the time, and this is not shader compilation stutters anymore. I am driving through the city again and again over the same places. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. And also, I see that the game has a lot of bad decisions. If you're getting such a bad performance, why are you trying to do, like, for example, you look at this tree, and this is nice. This is a nice detail. You look at the tree, you see the leaves are moving. So I believe, I am not a game developer, but based on my experience with many games, I believe that this is CPU demanding. All the physics simulations and cloth simulations and all of that makes the game CPU demanding. And I've seen that on Watch Dogs, on the Watch Dogs games. They have an extra details, that engine has an extra details slider that when you max out, you see this kind of stuff. You see the leaves moving and all of that. And that is extremely CPU demanding. Why they decided that that was a good idea? If you're getting such a bad performance, that's a terrible idea. It's nice to have that option, but give me a slider so I can turn it off. Because I don't care if I'm driving through the city. I don't care that the leaves of the trees are moving. That makes no sense. I am more concerned about how fluid the game looks and the frame rate. Look at this. It's stuttering all the time and popping. So yeah, to summarize, 30 frames per second, in my opinion, is either a bad creator's decision or incompetence. Maybe both, okay? That's it. There's no reason to have 30 frames per second, especially with the display technologies that we have today, which is basically sample and hold. On my plasma TV, I'm going to do a separate video about that. My plasma TV at 30 frames per second looks like 60 on this OLED, okay? It looks like 60 in movement because it's not a sample and hold display. Of course, it doesn't feel like 60, so it's not that it's good. I much rather play at 60 on the plasma, and it looks like 120 on the OLED. But with the display technologies that we have today, 30 frames is just unacceptable. It's a blurry mess, and they have to use motion blur. It makes it even more blurrier to just to hide the stuttering of 30 frames. It's extremely bad, especially in these OLED TVs with such a high gray to gray, low gray to gray, so such a high responsiveness of the pixels. It makes the stutter even more noticeable. than on a slower panel. So yeah, and also the problem is that you cannot use the motion smoothing techniques of the OLED because the consoles are either 60 hertz or 120 hertz. They don't have an option to be 30 hertz for 30 frames per second games. So because of that, the Judder 10 Motion Pro Medium doesn't work. So you need 30 frames per second and 30 hertz on the console to be able to use the motion interpolation on this OLED. And if you use black frame insertion, you can use a black frame insertion Motion Pro High, but the problem is you get double image because the frequency that the console is outputting is 60 or 120 if you want, but the game is at 30. Well, I think at 30 you cannot do 120. It's gonna be at 60, so you get double image. It's gonna look a little bit better, but you're gonna get double image, so it's not gonna be perfect. So at least I wish they have that option for the consoles to change it to 30 hertz, because I can do that on the PC. I can use 30 hertz, lock the games to 30 frames per second, use the Judder 10 Motion Pro Medium, and the game is gonna look like 160 frames per second. So I am getting basically 6 milliseconds of persistence, and that looks better than 120 frames natively. Of course, you get motion interpolation artifacts and you lose brightness because of Motion Pro, but it looks a lot better. Like 30 is unplayable, and it feels unresponsive anyway. So with that motion interpolation, it's going to feel super unresponsive, but it's at least going to look very good. It's gonna look very, very good. But you cannot use that on the consoles because the consoles are 60 hertz for those 30 frames per second games. Maybe there is a way to change the consoles to be 30 hertz. If you know, put that on the comments for everybody. But yeah, this is unfortunate, man. It is working bad. Look, the car is popping in. It's not only popping in, it was going up and down on the collision detection. I don't know. It's just broken. It's just broken. Without ray tracing, the performance is acceptable, but with it, it's too bad. And what is ray tracing doing anyway? Ray tracing is basically is allowing you to see on the reflection objects that are no longer on screen, and supposedly with a higher fidelity, which I don't see here. It looks blurry anyway. The reflections, they look blurry. So yeah, that's nice. So with a screen space reflections, I would not be able to see objects that are not on screen. But am I going to lose 20 frames for that? No. Hell no. It makes no sense. So yeah, man, it's just a bad idea, bad creator's decision. I wish they target for every game 120. 120. So, and then have a 60 frames fidelity mode, but 30, never. Why? This makes no sense. So yeah, let me know how are you playing the game, if you like it. So far, it's not even close to Batman Arkham Knight, which is one of my favorite games ever. Batman Arkham Knight, the music, everything on that game is just amazing. Just the entry, if I compare this game with Batman Arkham Knight, it's not even close. The graphics are not even close. The music is not even close. The voice acting, everything. It's not remotely close. But yeah, it's unfortunate, man. I'm still gonna play it a little bit. But yeah, this game is it's probably not worth my time, man. I have a lot better games to play. So, but I'm still gonna give it a try. The HDR is very good though. The HDR is looking very, very good. No complaints with the HDR. Well, it has the black level rays as every single auto HDR supported games, but I know that already, so I don't see that as a problem. Just change the settings on the TV, fine tune dark areas -16, and the game is using the HDR calibration app. But with ray tracing, it's unplayable. Stuttering, popping, yeah, terrible experience. So let me know your thoughts and opinions, and if you have any questions.